So, The Bad Batch Season 1 was great. I just marathoned the whole first season over the weekend and really liked it. The reason I watched it was because I just did a Star Wars tier list on my podcast of every Star Wars canon movie and TV show. It was then when I realized that I haven't seen The Bad Batch yet. With it only being 16 episodes and also being animated in the Clone Wars style, I thought, why not? After finishing it, I have a pretty positive opinion on it, but I still have some negative things to say. Starting with the positives, I think it was able to bridge the gap of the Clone Wars and Episode 3 extremely well. Episode 1 of the series was the best by far. It was an absolute 10 out of 10 and far exceeded the expectations of the series. I can tell the entire team who worked on The Bad Batch put their all into the first episode, and it shows. We get to see Order 66, young Kanan, Tarkin, the Emperor, and so much more, all in just one episode. It was a masterpiece, but I can't really say the same for the rest of the episodes. The second episode was great. I don't really have much to say about it, but the next 8 episodes afterwards, when they meet Sid and do missions for credits, were still good, but not great. They were more repetitive than anything. But that all changed when the Ryloth episode came into play and we got to see some familiar faces, like Hera and Chopper. It was at this time when we finally got to see the perspective of someone else in the series for an entire episode, which was desperately needed at this point. And I think it was here when I finally realized the biggest difference between the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch. Well, they might look the same, the stories were handled and told completely differently. The Clone Wars was comprised into 3 to 4 episode story arcs, which acted almost like mini movies in a way. While The Bad Batch is completely linear, every episode followed the last, which isn't terrible on its surface, but it means the POV of the characters didn't change for basically the whole series. This is where the Clone Wars story arcs were god tier. In one arc, we could have a mission with Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan, and in another, just be involving clone troopers. That's how the Clone Wars was able to be so good for so long. Imagine if one of the main characters of the Clone Wars, like Anakin, was the main perspective for every episode in all 7 seasons. While I still think the series would have been great, I think it was able to have been greater because so many different story arcs were explored without Anakin even being in them. After the Ryloth arc, the following 2 episodes were nothing special, but the final Kamino arc was another strong suit of the series. Mainly the 15th episode, where the Bad Batch returns to Kamino and gets to see the Empire and what they have done. Seeing the clone troopers get phased out and the destruction of Kamino were amazing. Also, I can't forget Tarkin's famous line, "You may fire when ready." Episode 15 is probably the only other 10 out of 10 episode from Season 1 in my opinion. The final of Season 1 was pretty lackluster. It was basically just a long escape episode, but actually seeing Crosshair work with the squad again was pretty cool. Overall, if I was to rank this series as of now on my Star Wars tier list, I would probably put it at a B tier. I think it was able to cover the storylines I wanted it to cover, like Kamino, the clone troopers, and showing the brutality of the Empire, but I think it should focus on covering more things such as Vader, the Emperor, the Inquisitors, and maybe even including Jedi in hiding from Order 66. If the series is able to accomplish these goals in Season 2, I would definitely move it up to A or even S tier. Now I do want to admit I could be a little bit biased in my ranking, because this series does take place in my favorite time period in the Star Wars canon, and that is basically Episode 2, Clone Wars, Episode 3, and now The Bad Batch. I think I really just like this time period in Star Wars because of the fact that it's so chaotic during this time. From Episode 2, the start of the Clone Wars, then to the 3-year gap between Episode 2 and 3 of the actual Clone Wars, and then obviously all the events that take place in episode 3, and now we get to see the events after episode 3 through the lens of the Bad Batch. Anyways, that's about it for the video. I hope everyone enjoyed my sort of pseudo review on the Bad Batch in this commentary, and until next time, see ya.